And the reason people hide things is because they're in fear and they don't want to lose their job. So
Mhm.
you would have to create an environment where you reduce fear and you elevate the importance of sharing what's going wrong. So we reward people for what's going wrong. We don't reward people for solutions. The solution is the reward itself.
Welcome to Take a Beat, a podcast dedicated to those who are wanting to hit pause on the hustle, get clear on your direction, and head toward the life that you envision. Today's episode is an interview with Glenn Bostock, the founder and CEO of SnapCab, a design and manufacturing company that creates elevator interiors and custom privacy pods. Glenn's also the author of the upcoming book, A Human Business, which details his business philosophy of putting people first. In this episode, Glenn shares his story starting out as a cabinet maker and becoming the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. He also explains how early adversity in the form of learning disabilities and difficulties, which made school challenging and often attracted unkind treatment, were what shaped his current business approach of creating a kind, caring environment at SnapCab. Take a listen to hear more of Glenn's story, including the lessons he's learned, sometimes the hard way, and how he and his team at SnapCab are dedicated to creating a workplace where people feel seen and heard. Well, thanks, Glenn, for coming on today and for taking the time and being willing to share your story and more about your company.
Sure, absolutely.
Maybe to get started, we could start off with if you're open to sharing a little bit about your career journey and what got you to starting SnapCab.
Oh, sure. Well, a lot of the things that got me to where I am, I hid for many, many years. And I think it was when I got in my late 30s and early 40s, I realized the benefit of my entire story. When I was in school, well, first of all, when I was in school, it was fantastic. Apparently kindergarten was so good, my parents had me go through it twice. And when I was in first grade, my teacher would put folding panels all the way around my desk so I couldn't see my classmates. I couldn't see out the window. I could only see the board. And I started to realize I think there's something different about me. And by the time fourth grade came around, everybody was aware there was something different about me. I had learning differences, you say nowadays, learning disabilities I grew up with, dyslexia, uh, hypoglycemia, and they didn't know what was my problem at the time. They thought I was reading cross-eyed. They thought I had a terrible memory. Turns out I do have a terrible memory. What it, what the real I think I got two major things out of school. One was learning how to deal with failure and just getting comfortable with failure and assuming that I'll probably fail because I've had a whole many years of failure in school, which ended up serving me really well in business. Not having a high expectation like this is going to win. I know this is going to work. I had much more of the energy of like, well, let's give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? I'll probably screw it up, but that's okay. I'm used to being on the short end of the stick of that.
Mhm.
So that was had been really helpful. I don't think it was the goal of the school, but that was what I came away with. The other one was that when I was out being tutored, which was fantastic because I was learning at a rate I could learn. When I went back in the classroom, which it was all the skills subjects in school I was being tutored for. And my classmates found it highly entertaining to give everybody nicknames and poke fun at them. My nickname was Reject. And my friend who was a good deal better in school than I was, his nickname was Brainless. But he's now got a manufacturing company in Fort Collins, Colorado, doing very well. And what I learned in school was I could barely function when I was in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until I was in my 40s. I was in a very stressful business situation and I got hives. And I got hives on the palms of my hands. And when I was a kid, I got hives regularly. And the doctors thought it was because I was allergic to something. So they were trying to giving me these allergy tests. And I realized as an adult, I was under a lot of stress because I was put in a situation that I couldn't deal with. And then when I was in my 40s, my mom gave me a letter that my fourth grade teacher had written that basically said, I think this kid is really being harmed in the classroom and they don't know what to do about it. Looking back on that, I realized how important your environment is. One of my classmates came up to me not that many years ago. I was standing in Starbucks buying something, and they started asking me questions, and I start dropping my egg bites and my coffee, and I'm just start falling apart. And I can tell you this, that the environment that you work in affects people dramatically. And since I've been fortunate enough to, have a company, I have two companies now. I have 95 employees outside of Philadelphia and Warrington, PA, and we have about 50 employees here in Kingston, Ontario. And I was not going to recreate that environment for them.
Mhm.
Early on in my business, I did recreate that environment for them because I thought that's the way you ran a business. But then when the business was started failing, I had to rethink that.
It does sound like you had a rough time in school if you're breaking out in hives. And it sounds like you learned some things about resilience or learning from failure or mistakes that now are you're implementing within your own company and your own business philosophy. Maybe just to give people an idea, what is SnapCab real quick?
Okay, so when I went into business for myself, where I did excel was in woodworking, and I started a little business with my wife doing fine woodworking. I did that for about 14 years. Then when we started having kids, we didn't, we took about 6 years, we started having kids and started driving ourselves into poverty because the work, my wife wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. My kids cost money. They thought a house would be a good idea. At least my wife thought it'd be a good idea. And I wasn't making enough. I loved doing the work, but it wasn't paying enough. And I got into the business of remodeling elevators. It's still related to cabinet making, but it used the same skills, but it was a much better market. There's a real need for elevator remodeling. And then over time, I came up with a system of remodeling elevators. Otis Elevators saw that system and gave me they gave me a national agreement to do remodeling
Very
for
cool.
them. And then over time, all the major elevator companies, as well as, so now we do about 33 million in sales, and it's grown from like a 1 and 2 man person to 140 people, two different countries doing this. In 2016, we were at Architectural Convention Center, convention selling elevator tiers, and there was a gentleman from WeWork. It's a co-working company,
Mhm.
and he was a, consultant, and he said that they needed 1,600, over 1,600 pods a year. Would you guys be interested? If you just put a glass door on on this elevator interior and wrapped it in paneling, you'd have a pod. And I thought, whoa, 1,600, that seems like worthwhile to look into. So we ended up getting into the pod market. And I would say what's relevant of what I'd want to share on your show about leadership is that I was way in over my head with
Sure.
leadership.
And how did you
But
start to notice that you were over your head, or what were some of the signs?
when it first took off, I just had custom cabinet makers that were working for me, and I was just trying to tell them to work faster so we can make elevator interiors to go across North America. And then that just doesn't work. So then Otis sent us to their lean manufacturing school. It's called EDA University, and somebody put me onto the book. Uh, it's actually Jonathan Simmons of Jonathan Spoons put me onto the book called The E-Myth, which is kind of like the layman's guide to lean manufacturing and how to build your business. And the book says you need to go to work on your business, not in your business. And I went to work on my business, building the systems and processes. So that transformed the business. But at the time, I was still like a top-down leader, like, do it. I built the system. Now you come and do it. Here, come stand here. Here's your tools. Go do it. And my best worker messed up a job that got shipped to Mexico. And so I literally thought, I wasn't mad, but I literally thought, you know what would be a good idea? I should yell at Bob. This this will be good because that way Bob will know we don't want to do that. And then I'm sure he'll be incentivized to come the next day. And then his peers watch him get yelled at. Is That's good too, because then they'll all know you don't want to get yelled at. So I yell at Bob and then he quits. I'm like, whoa, wait, this is my best guy. So I'm like, oh shoot, dang it. I'm pretty sure that's the kind of experience I got in school and some of my early jobs
Yeah.
not working for me. So I around the same time I'd been having some marriage challenges that drove me to getting a counselor who pointed out that people are led by what they love. And I thought, well, I know for sure I'm led by what I love. But he was pointing out, why don't you not be, too self-centered and maybe consider what other people are interested in. I thought, Bob, he's here because he loves making things. He didn't get up wanting to mess up that job. And he was using my process, by the way, that he used to make the mistake. It was my fault. So wouldn't you know it, Bob screwed up another job. This time it was the wrong material on a ceiling that went with an elevator that went to Hawaii, and the customer rejected it. And we needed to put new laminate new stainless steel on the ceiling. So I sent Bob and his wife to Hawaii for a week. He spent a day fixing the ceiling. Then he came back, and then we went through what went wrong there. And he said that nobody checked the material as it came in. He didn't check the material because it had a peel coat on it. And so since then, we check all the material that comes in before we build something. Make sure you're building it with the right material. That's advanced knowledge there for you. Make sure you're building it with the right material and not damaged material. So we included him in the solution, whereas before I was just telling him what to do. And I thanked him. He's saved me, I can guarantee, hundreds of thousands of dollars since then, if not maybe millions of orders that haven't been messed up because we checked the materials now.
So you
And
went
what do you,
from yelling at Bob to sending him on a 1-week vacation to Hawaii.
yeah, yeah. And guess what was more incentivizing for Bob?
I can imagine. Yeah, the Hawaii trip.
Yeah, yeah. So I dropped punishment at that time. I just decided to drop it. It's not a way to incentivize people. It's a way to make a sort of a hell for people to work in. Nobody's incentivized by that. So I dropped it, which later on that's created other challenges that we've dealt with about being clear of what our expectations are and stuff. Well, that wasn't the end of my problems, and my problems are continuing today. But my next set of problems was the company grew a lot, and I didn't actually have like a business background. And I went through four different leaders that I was trying to get them to run the business because I didn't want to be one of those pig-headed founders that grew their business beyond their capabilities of running a business. But each one of those people, you could say I'm stubborn or whatever you want to say about it. But in my opinion, they were taking the business off track to a different business than what I had envisioned for it.
Mhm.
And after probably another 12 years of doing that, I then decided, I'm just going to take over this business myself.
All right.
And but I'm not disciplined. I still am dyslexic. I don't terrible at reading. I don't hate my calendar. Not a good communicator. So I ended up getting a team. There's a people that make a really good living over my weaknesses. And I adopted this model of using the idea. The idea of what a business isn't clear. But look at your own body. You've got your leadership team going on in your head, and when I get a pebble in my shoe, I immediately stop and get the pebble out of my shoe. When a business gets a pebble in its shoe, it just keeps walking on the pebble until it wears a hole in your business foot. Like there's not a robust feedback from every part of the business to the head. So if you looked at your management team, you looked at it like your nervous system transporting the thoughts back and forth,
Mhm.
the instructions back and forth to every part of your body, and you looked at your heart and lungs as, getting the blood to every part of your body. This analogy just goes on and on and on about how well your body works and how you get up in the morning and go do stuff with whatever purpose that you have in your mind that your body tries to aid you in achieving your goal with your life. And the next thing I knew, I was at that lean manufacturing school that Otis sent me to, and they were owned by United Technologies. United Technologies owns Sikorsky helicopter, Pratt and Whitney aircraft engines, Carrier air conditioner, and at the time, Otis elevator. They're not owned by them anymore. But I was there with people that were responsible for planes staying in the air, and I'm just decorating elevators. And the school was put together by a man named Mr. Ito, who had come from Japan, from Panasonic. And he said that the gold is in the problems. If
Mm,
you can identify a problem, then you that's step number one. What's the problem? Now you can fix the problem.
mm.
And so that's when we started rewarding people for making mistakes. We don't call them mistakes though. Mr. Ito had us calling them turnbacks. So you have a goal, and it could be anything. It could be how the receptionist answers the phone. But who in their right mind would want to advertise what they're doing wrong and then tell the leadership team about it? We hide those things, right?
Right.
Like the last thing you want to do is share what's going wrong. And the reason people hide things is because they're in fear and they don't want to lose their job.
Mhm.
So you would have to create an environment where you reduce fear and you elevate the importance of sharing what's going wrong. So we reward people for what's going wrong. We don't reward people for solutions. The solution is the reward itself. The company does better. We can make more money. We can give raises. They get a better work environment because they get time, materials to solve the problems.
So they're incentivized to notice mistakes or turn.
That's right.
All right.
That's right. That's right. And then at a company meeting, whoever had reported the most that month gets a prize. You might get an extra day vacation or a dinner out with their family or something.
Okay. So going from the
Um,
idea that the gold is in the mistakes or the turnbacks, you're wanting your employees to notice them more and more because
that's
in
right.
that comes the solution.
That's right. You're involving the workers in solving their own problems. And where I used to be putting in the solution myself, now me going out there just gets in the way. When they put in a solution, they're going to be a lot more invested in seeing it work. And if it doesn't work, it's going to show up on those boards again. And it's like a self-healing system.
All right.
So this circles back to me in my classroom of that non-caring environment.
Yeah.
You need to create a caring environment where people are willing to collaborate like this.
Were there other ways that you were able to reduce fear and create a caring environment other than incentivizing, noticing, and finding mistakes?
We originally, I thought it was my job to like change people and get them to want to be more caring. Uh, it turns out I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm super gifted at being caring myself. But you can create systems that help support people to be caring. So, for instance, we have a system that on the anniversary of every employee, their manager gets together with their coworkers and they make a little testimonial video highlighting the things that they love about the worker, the good job they're doing, maybe some personal uh, hobbies the person has, so we get to know them better.
Yeah.
And in Kingston, Ontario, where we're still 50 people, that happens for everybody every month at a company meeting. In Warrington, we're pushing 100 people, and we're starting to have to people get that they get acknowledged on their anniversary, but we're having to like reinvent um, how we do it. Like it doesn't always happen at every company meeting because the whole meeting would be filled up with anniversary videos.
Fair enough.
That's to say that what your intention is the important part, not the activity they actually do. You're just trying to find a activity like anniversary videos to support your intention of having people feel cared for.
Yeah.
The the other thing we do is that we recruit caring people, which is we used to recruit skilled people. We used to look at the resume, how much experience do they have? Now we're like, we don't care if you don't have any experience, but if you like working with your hands or you like working with numbers and you're interested in a company culture, and you have a love of building a community with your coworkers. If
Mhm.
we can identify that, it's easy to train the skills, but I can't train somebody into caring. You have to hire for that. You could enhance it, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once you started changing things in terms of the leadership style, how did the trajectory of your business start changing?
I guess the question would be, because I've multiple times I've said, let's shrink the bit. I prefer to shrink the business, but to get the business I want,
Okay.
because that was one of my problems in my earlier leaders is you cannot go backwards. It's all about growth, like revenue growth. And revenue growth, you can hide a lot of dysfunction through successful revenue growth.
Still here.
Um, yeah, sorry, it's my wife.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, that was so great. That okay, that's what you call a turn back.
uh,
I was just telling you about my pro tip. Put your device on airplane mode so you don't get interrupted. And then, of course, the podcast gets interrupted as well.
no worries.
So that's where I would get myself a ticket and like write down there, that's a turn back. So what were we just talking about? Hiring people, I think, right?
Also, you mentioned that you can hide a lot of
Oh,
dysfunctional
right.
revenue. Yeah.
Yeah. And we ended up doing a lot of dysfunctional things with the company based on other people's ideas of what the business model should be, and they were proving that it was correct because the revenue was going up, and it did go up until it didn't go up. We were breaking our promise to our customers about what our value was.
Yeah.
Are you delivering what you say you're delivering? We were in the business of delivering simple to install elevator interiors, and we shifted to delivering whatever the architect wants, even though we don't have a way to make it and we don't know how it's going to install.
Gotcha.
So we were breaking our promise about simple to install. So I took the company back over, and I've written this book, A Human Business, that we're coming out with this coming spring. I turned 65 this year. And the catalyst for writing the book was to have kind of a constitution for my goal is to somehow have this company transfer over to the employees. But I have the desire for them to be a model of how a well-run business, putting people first, could run,
Yeah.
and not just turn it into something else.
Okay. And so your
So,
idea right now is to essentially transfer it over to the employees.
right.
Okay.
And I'd like to talk to people like you to have this idea of maybe there's a better way to run a business than
Yeah.
the traditional way that we're all familiar with.
Well, I know one thing that we talked about before we started recording is the idea of maybe better ways to be successful and less helpful ways to be
Right.
successful. Do you have
Yeah.
any examples on that?
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to be really successful in not great ways.
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's important for me to put out what we're doing. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people there's a conscious capitalism idea where it's not just the business owners, but everybody should benefit from a business, not just the business owners. The purpose of a corporation is to take care of, I can't believe I have to say this, is to take care of the customers.
Mhm.
And it's made up out of a group of people. I think it should be made up of a group of people that are taking care of a customer.
Mm.
And the owners are just a participant in helping, playing a role in letting this happen. When I made my company, taking care of me, the goal of my company, I made really poor decisions and I treated people poorly.
Yeah.
You want to pay your employees as little as you possibly can. You want to make as cheap a product as you can, and then you want to charge as much as possible. And you want to put the spread between what you're getting paid and what you have to pay out to everybody else as big as possible.
Mm.
I was just in Japan, and that entire country is amazing. They have this value system where They are focused on creating value for other people constantly. That's their only focus, is creating value. The CEOs there are much closer paid to the lowest worker by dramatically
Mhm.
compared to the US. The I would buy products there. I bought some fruit and some things that just, you're holding this and you go like, wow, look at the craftsmanship in this item. Well, we went and watched this man making meat bowls, turning bowls for miso soup. And it's like, oh my gosh, look at the craftsmanship in this. And it was like $8. And it's like he just charged what was necessary for him to have the livelihood to have that he wanted to have. He wasn't like, well, how much can I get out of these tourists? Well, they can do that within Japan. And we can do that within companies. I don't think we can do that within a country, but you could do that within a company. You could have a culture here that we're here to create value for other people. And part of the big payoff for me as the owner and the other workers is that we get to work with each other.
Yeah.
And my weakness is getting taken care of, somebody's love of helping somebody. So somebody, I was telling you, I have somebody that works for me that loves literature, went to school for literature and loves writing.
Mhm.
Her love of taking my vague ideas and crystallizing them into a book,
Mhm.
that it's amazing. So she doesn't have 40 years of manufacturing experience. I don't have the gift of writing. And I could say that for every part of this company. There's accountants, there's engineers, designers, manufacturing people. And the people that are actually creating the work that actually gets shipped to the customers are probably the most valuable people. And we're creating relationships here.
Mm.
You get to have relationships with people that are making your life better and you're making their life better. And everybody that I know of wants to have purpose in life. And if you were working out as an individual, you would have a hard time creating the amount of value for other people, purpose, than you could if you worked in a company where they said, oh, you got a weakness around being organized? Don't worry about that. I got you covered. I've got this guy that does our training. He loves putting on kids camps. I said, I need a kid camp guy. Would you do training for us? I want my training to be like a kids camp. But it turns out he's not good at the administrative part. It's like, well, who got trained and what did what did all the paperwork look like? But he's amazing. So then I put him together with sort of this person that has this sort of nerdy engineering, love data, it's the instructions all perfectly clear person who just loves that. And together they both are like getting to do stuff that they could never do by themselves.
I
Again, like your heart and lungs working together
Mhm.
to give you life.
Well, I think it's really cool that you recognize that and that you're open to that idea and instilling that within your company. And did you ever feel like it was a risk to go that route?
Well, yeah, that's where the failing through school pays off. I was pretty sure it was going to fail. Why
Okay.
wouldn't it fail? I'm doing it differently than
Yeah.
I've ever seen anybody do it before. But I thought, I didn't really graduate from college. I missed some credits there. I only went to school for fine woodworking. My thought of running, you know, a corporation was a lot of levels of people, hundreds of people in two different countries. I just can't believe that I could do that.
Yeah.
And when I gave up on thinking that I had to know everything, is when everything took off.
Yeah. It sounds like you're creating an environment where there's less fear, but also the idea of people can truly be who they are and they don't have to hide
Right,
or pretend to be someone that they're not.
right. That's what we're striving for. And we're doing that. And we have problems. And I would say that earlier in my career, I thought once you got it all figured out, your problems go away.
Yeah.
Then we keep working on things. The problems seem to keep coming up. I've come to realize that, and that's where having a good attitude around problems like when I got into this human business thing, it's like you can come in here and point at people. There's always a percentage of people that are like disengaged and this isn't the right place. I'm going to say there's 3 or 4% of those people. There are some people that are just over the moon. This is the most amazing place. And every day is like, well, how do you handle the problems?
So it's not necessarily you're avoiding problems or it's how you're viewing the problems that
Right.
then becomes a change in your attitude essentially.
Right. That's right.
And that problems are not a problem, they're almost like an opportunity.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. That's definitely the sunny way. Opportunities don't always feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be in this opportunity right now. But you do know, oh yeah, the last time my life really sucked like this, I am improved from
Mhm.
having gone through that.
Yeah. Well, if you had to sum up your business philosophy in like a couple sentences, what would you say your business philosophy is?
My business philosophy is create an environment where people can thrive. That's a caring environment. I would say people need to be authentic with their strengths and weakness and know that it's there to build a community while you're simultaneously all growing as people. And I'd say we're here to be useful to each other and to our customers.
And uh, kind of a question leading off of that, but why do you think it's important for more businesses or more organizations to maybe adopt a people first or people centric approach?
I this world that we're getting into, I feel like an old curmudgeon, like one of those guys like, oh, they're inventing cars and airplanes. Well, that's not going to lead anywhere good.
Yeah.
But we have AI now, and I use it, I think, daily. AI, it's fantastic, and it's going to be so great until AI doesn't need us anymore.
Right.
That's my concern. And the thing that the people that have created AI, I wonder what the definition of success is.
Mhm.
I hear the definition of success is that the sunny side of AI would be that you get to have an option if you want to work or not.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, we're missing the boat on just being humans and dealing with each other the way that we know that we like to be deal with. I'm I'm happy that AI can feel so excited about being useful, but the people that have everything done for them, it used to mean something to write something or do a bit of art. And now it's like, well, that's worthless, but I guess I'll use it because you know,
So
it's
having purpose.
utilitarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the question is what is the purpose of life? And I saw a study on a TED Talk, 75-year study that said the thing that brings happiness is the people that you have around you.
Mhm.
And without having something useful to do with another person, and I would also say that my definition of loving somebody is being of use to them, doing something for them for their benefit.
Yeah.
And if I was surrounded by people, which more and more I am, I would say that's creating a world that I get satisfaction I want to live in.
Mhm.
Being able to be independent and isolated and not need anybody because I've got a robot to take care of me and AI to answer every question and no need to wonder anymore.
Yeah.
Um, no, I'm not railing against AI. All I'm saying is that we should embrace the people that are around us, and we should look at business as there's no greater useful avenue to being a human being, getting together as a group and doing something useful for somebody else than a business. We have it. We just should use it in the right way.
I, I agree with you that AI is lovely if it can take away some of the tasks we don't need to be doing, but ultimately, most people want some sort of purpose or direction or something, some way
Right.
to be useful in life. Yeah.
Right.
Well, if you had advice for someone who was interested in starting a business or maybe they're trying to build a business, what would your advice be for them?
There's tons of people that could teach you the sort of the mechanics and the tactics about how to go about building a business. I'd love to share things I do. I love forms. I love tools. I, I've been asked that question by other people, like, "What's your secret? What do you do?" And I when I tell them the secret, they look at me blankly and really disappointed. But honestly, the truth is to build trust with people, and you can build trust. The internet is full of information. I don't need to teach you about how to become a person that can be trusted and who will take the short end of the stick and not always be trying to get the biggest piece of pie and end up achieving a lot because their trajectory with their intention of life is going to get them somewhere where people get on board with them because they trust that person. They can see where they're going. They trust that person's vision. They want to help them get there.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter if you go 2 steps back because you're going to go 25 steps forward.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and sharing more about your business and your approach to running a business and how it changed for you and why you do things the way you do and why you think it's important. If people want to find out more about you, want to find out more about your book that's coming up, where can they go?
Um, Connect at glennbostock.com.
Okay.
Another one would be glenn.bostock at snapcab.com.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming on today.
Okay, thanks so much for having me.
Be sure to check out Glenn's website to find out more about SnapCab and his upcoming book, A Human Business. As an additional note, if you're a career pivoter or going through a life transition and you're interested in redefining or reframing your story, check out takeabeatcoaching.com to learn more about a one-on-one coaching program designed to help you tell your story confidently. Thanks for listening and take care.